Hi and welcome to Sven's Bricks. It's been a little while since I've worked on any of my 6 to 8 stud Speed Champions conversions, so I thought it'd be time to pick up the series again. And I recently had delivered a second-hand Dodge Challenger SRT Demon, which I thought would be fun to try out, largely because it will add a bit of colour to the collection, but also because I think that the original model is actually really nice. It could just do with widening a little bit for accuracy. If you haven't already seen them, there are videos for each of the 8 conversions that you see on the table here on my channel, so do check out those videos. But without further ado, let's get going with the Dodge. Now I think I might run into a couple of challenges with this one, and I think that the biggest ones are going to be how I'm going to do the front end of the car. It is currently done with stickers, so I will need to either get my hand on some more of these stickers or produce some of my own. Alternatively, I might be able to find a brick built solution, which would be the ideal, but for the accuracy I may need to lean a bit on the stickers for that. It's also done on one of these smaller chassis pieces, so I'm probably going to try one of the new 2023 chassis pieces in order to get it really low to the ground, but then I may run into challenges with the side skirting here. Otherwise, I think I might get away with this one without too big of a headache, but there's only one way to find out, and that's to get going. So as always, we'll begin by pulling the car apart into a few larger sections in order to get a bit of an understanding of how it's built. This one came built to me in the post, so I haven't actually built this personally. We will remove this into a few sections. So the wheels. Okay, that's interesting because the most natural way that this came apart was actually a kind of top half and a bottom half with the front and the back. So this is a bit different from the previous models where I've been able to sort of detach the front end and then work my way backwards. We may do just like this actually and try and convert it from the top down. Or from the bottom up actually, probably would make more sense with the chassis piece. So I think we'll attempt that. I'm going to add in one stud in the middle for length as well, and potentially one at the front or at the back. I need to have a bit of a look at the actual car and to see whether the length needs to be added, but that's going to be my approach from here. Start with the wheels. I'm just going to do as I've done with the other conversions and just create my own versions of these sort of axle pieces by putting a couple of 1x2 bricks onto a 2x6 plate. And then, as mentioned, I will be using one of the 2023 chassis pieces, and the reason for this is that it's a little bit bigger on the inside here, which should allow me to create space for 2 minifigures inside the car, and then it's also a bit deeper than the older chassis piece, which will allow me to build lower to the ground, which I think is a desired effect for this car. So this is going to be replacing the chassis piece underneath here, and I'll probably just begin by lifting the sides off in order to get a bit of an idea of how it's going to look. These will need to be extended both ways, but we'll just begin like this. I'm actually already there able to lift off these wheel arch pieces from the original model and put them onto the new one. I'm largely doing this at this point just to have a look at the proportions of the car, to see where the extra studs need to be added in, and also just to get a bit of an idea of how it's going to look. So I'm just going to strengthen up this back section a bit by removing these studs on the side pieces. So this is from the original car here, and I'm just going to add in a little 1x2 plate in there, and then from there I'm going to replace the grey round plate with a 2x4, and then I'm going to add my own studs on the side piece next to it for the added width, and then from there we'll then put on the 4 long studs on the side and add my own 2 long, and that will then sit in there like that. So that has now widened the back section, which this widened version will then sit on here. From there we'll then do the same with the front half, adding in a 1x2 plate just in between there, a 1x4 in front of that, there. This is from the original build, so that was sat central like this. So what I'll do is I will remove those grey bits and just place that to the side, and then I'll build my own with extra parts and place that one there. In fact, what I ought to do really is replace the two 1x2 studs on the side pieces with a 1x4, just for a bit of extra strength on that. And that's that section then done. So the front will then sit on there once we've widened that as well. As you can see, I think it might be a bit short considering the scale, but we'll get to that a bit later. So I think in order to continue to strengthen the build, we need to address the gap here. I'm going to do that using one of these headlight bricks. I'm just going to put a couple of round plates onto that one, and then I'm going to put one of these 1x2 slopes onto the side there. And then this actually just sits inside there. I'm still leaving a little gap on top, so I'm going to put in a couple of 1x2 plates. Okay, so having done that, I've identified another issue, and that is that the 2023 chassis piece studs are just a little bit lower than what we used to, and that means that there's a gap in the bodywork here. So in order to work around this, I'm simply just going to remove that side panel again and get rid of this black plate. And then once I've got rid of that, I can then attach 3 of the bracket pieces onto it, which will just give me that tiny little lip that I need in order to hide that gap. So in theory, it should end up looking like this. Leaving this here a bit loose, so we're going to remove the 2 and the 1x plates there and replace those with 3s. I think while we're at it, we might as well just go ahead and replace these single cheese slopes with double ones here as well. So I think this is okay. As you can probably see, that my solution has actually caused these slope pieces just to stick out sort of half a plate, which isn't ideal, to be honest with you. But I think actually what I might do is to remove the stickers. Sorry if you're not a fan of that idea, but most of the images I've seen online don't have this printing on the side, and I think considering that it doesn't match the yellow as well, it makes this whole area stick out even more than it should do. So I'm going to remove the stickers here, I think, later on in the build. I'm not going to do it right now because I'm not sure, but I'm going to live with the way that this is, at least for now. Perhaps revisit it if I can think of an alternative. But I think it's probably a good compromise, especially considering the amount of space that it allows us to have inside the cabin. I mean, you can almost fit 3 figures in there, not quite, but yeah, it's going to be a lot of cabin space in this build. So I'm going to move on to the rear section of the car. I'm going to use one of these 6 wide studs on the side pieces like the original build has, but I'm adding a couple of studs onto there, and then I'm adding a 1x8 plate onto there, whereas the original has a 1x6. And then from there, in order to get the sides correct, I'm putting on 2 of these L-shaped bricks with a 1x2 plate underneath there, which will complete the side look like that, because I then should be able to lift off the majority of the original here and place it onto here. We can begin by removing this yellow section there, and we can then take the exhausts straight off and then put a 1x1 plate underneath each one. Before moving over the slopes, adding in my own in the middle there. You can then take the 1x4 plate from the original build and stick that into the middle, and we're starting to get there a bit. The only thing here now really is that the lights are actually quite a lot wider in the real car compared with the Lego version, so they're going to look small on my model, and the question is how to get around that, whether we need to create a custom sticker to go in between these tiles, or whether we need to brick build it. But basically we're ending up is something that looks a bit like this. So these lights really should extend out to this third brick here. I'm going to leave it like this for now, I think, and just live with it and see how I feel during the building process. So I need a 1x6 brick in order to do that. Move those across, and then because this is printed, I'm actually just going to forget about that for now and put a 1x4 in there, and then at least we have a completed back end. I probably need to do something about the black line that isn't continued along here like the original sticker has, but I'll have a look at that a bit later. So we should be able to place this onto the car now, and I don't think that looks half bad. So seeing as we've done the back section, we may as well do the front now. And this one's going to be pretty straightforward. We're just going to replace this black piece here with a 8 long version, and then we're going to add an extra one of these 2x3 plates in underneath here, before then moving over pieces from the original build. We'll add in a 2x6 here. And a 1x6 there. And a 1x4 tile there. Then move these last bits over from the original build to go under there, which then just leaves us with this stickered part. I have a 1x8 tile to go across there, but obviously it looks very plain. I think for now at least, I'm just going to add that one into there, and a couple more tiles in there. This whole section here, I'm probably going to need to create a custom sticker for, but I'm going to leave it like that for now. And then I guess the big question is what we do with the lights. But you see, if we put this on, I think that this looks a bit too short here. Front, it's a bit stubby compared to the real car. So I'll just add in a 2x8 plate underneath the whole thing. Just pull that back off again and add that one in. And then I'm going to need to see how it looks in order to know what to do with the black plate there. I think personally there's a bit too big of a gap there. So I've added an extra 1x8 black plate on the back there, at least for now. But then I've also added a couple of headlights onto this and a couple of grille pieces, placed a yellow tile with a black plate. What I don't like about this is that you're going to see the black bit from the side of the car, but I think it's a better option than having it completely yellow like it was before. So I think from the front it kind of looks okay. From the side it's not perfect. You can't see as much of this black here from the side profile on the real car. But I think, to be honest with you, I might need to redo this whole section and completely redesign this whole section. So that's something I may attempt either in this video or at a later date, but I'm going to leave it like that for now and keep going. So I think it's time to have a look at the hood or the bonnet of the car, and this is the original piece. And actually, on the original build, this is wider than it should be. It should actually be about this size. So I'm actually going to keep this as it is in terms of the size, and then I'm just going to add black tiles down the side there, and then I'm going to use this style of 6-wide windscreen. It has a much better slope for this car. I did look at this one as well, but it's way too upright, that one. It doesn't look right. So basically this will sit where those studs are, although it's not going to sit on there because they're offset. So because I've used a completely different chassis for this build, I'm basically just going to have to fill in using my own tiles and bricks in here in order to place this section onto. I'm then going to need to remove these jumper plates and figure out how we then attach the windscreen. These need to be moved out to the sides here, and these little cheese slopes here need to move in to come in underneath the air intake here. So the last bit here before we work on the interior is going to be to widen this section, and this is the back of the roof. So I think I'm just going to keep the design. I think that the angle is pretty appropriate. The window's a bit small, but I think for the space it's going to be hard to get anything better in there. So I'm just going to literally just extend the width of this, put a couple more cheese slopes in here, put an extra one of the modified plates in as well, and basically build up this area so that that can sit in there, because it will actually sit and line up in there perfectly with this windscreen piece, which is nice. And then once that's done, I'll then move on to the interior of the car. But this should be the last sort of challenging part of the build, I hope. So fingers crossed. Bear with me, I'll just throw in a few plates and a few bricks into this area here in order to build this widened section on top, and then we'll move on to the interior. Well, I'm now done with the build for now. There's one or two bits that I had to compromise a little bit on, but I have now completed the interior. I've now fixed some of the issues with the stickers, and I've made a couple of final adjustments to the bodywork. So let me run you through the changes. So firstly, I decided to go for a completely brick-built front end here. I really like the way that it looks. The stickers on the original set perhaps are closer in terms of accuracy, but I prefer the charm of the brick built, and I think it's close enough that you can still see that it's a Dodge, and that's good enough for me. The sticker underneath here, as mentioned, I did pull the stickers off the side, so I've actually put that one on underneath here. As you can see, I just folded it underneath just to get that yellow line to continue underneath for the grille at the bottom there. And again, for me, it's good enough. I think, you know, it's missing the sort of grille detailing that the original stickers has, but you don't really, I don't think you really think about that, to be honest. So I'm also pretty pleased with the outcome there. I've then also created some custom stickers to go on the back. Now, I'm not very happy with these. They are not vibrant enough for headlights. They need to be a lot redder, or a lot brighter rather. But at least they're the right size now, and I think that that's a better compromise for now than having the headlights very small, because it's quite a defining rear end on this car, and I think it's important that these are as wide as they are. Maybe I'll get around to fixing more vibrant versions of these, but this is what I've managed to achieve for now. The last bit of sticker work that I did was that I actually cut a few of these black bits off pre-existing sticker sheets that I had. And then I've just lined them. So I've done 3 here and lined them up in order to complete the black bonnet or the hood on the car. And I think that actually came out pretty nice. You could probably do this with electrical tape or something similar, but I decided to go with official Lego stickers, mainly just because I wanted to get a really good color match with the black, which I think I've managed to achieve here. If you don't want this, you could always leave it off, but it does leave a bit too much yellow at the front. So I guess it's a matter of preference for that, but I'm pretty pleased with the outcome. I also realised after a little while, the bottom of the side of the car here is actually half a plate deeper than these bits on the brackets. So this was actually creating a tiny little gap underneath the sloped pieces that I had here before. So I've actually opted to put in a couple of 1x6 tiles instead. I was a bit worried that this would ruin the look, and that maybe I was just going to compromise and leave the sloped pieces on there, but I didn't feel good about it. It didn't sit right with me to leave a gap like that in the Lego. It was just a bit weird, and actually I'm pretty pleased with the way this came out. It's obviously not as accurate as the real car, but then neither were those sloped pieces that I had on it before, because the actual real car isn't quite as sloped as that on the side. So I think that this created quite a mean look. Finally, on the exterior, I've just switched out the wheel caps for these 5-spoke alloys. The wheel caps are nice, and I like the way that they make the tyre look wider, but they make the tyre look a bit smaller as well, or at least the profile of the tyre is a lot thicker. So I think that these work better for this scale, and I think that this really helped to complete the look. I actually had quite a bit of fun with the interior. So I've obviously just used 1x6 tiles for the roof here, And then if we remove our driver there, you'll see that I've created a little custom built seat in there. And that is very simply just using a couple of these bracket pieces or modified clip plates. And then I've put a modified plate with a bar on the back of it and one of these black slopes. And then I've basically just put that into the base of the chassis. So I can just show you here very quickly, like that. And I've put a 1x2 tile in front of it like that in order to create the seat. So this one can actually now go in here. And then I can show you the interior in full. So you can see there's a couple of custom built seats. And on this side here, I've managed to squeeze in a full size steering wheel. And then I've got a little dash here with a little screen there. The real interior is very black, but I thought that it was more fun to have a couple of dials here, and the yellow here matches the car. This is from one of the old submarine sets, but there is a screen in the real car, so I thought it would be fun just to have some sort of a resemblance of a screen in there. And then this is just the dash above the glove box there. And I've also just chucked in a very overdone technique for the gear stick there with a hollow stud with a microphone in it. But I think overall that the interior came out pretty nice. There's tons of space in there, definitely enough for 2 minifigures. And I think that our minifigure sits appropriately far back in the vehicle from what I can make out of the images online. And overall, I think it really helps to complete the look that we've got a bit of a bigger steering wheel as well. So that's it for this one. Relatively straightforward this time around. I highly recommend giving it a go. If you've enjoyed the video, please do drop a like as it helps the channel to grow. Let me know if you have any improvements that I could make to the model. I'll be back again soon with another video. Thank you very much for watching, and bye for now.